A blonde woman is speeding down an empty road when she's pulled over by a blonde cop. The cop walks up to her window and asks for her driver's license. "Driver's license?" the blonde driver asks, somewhat confused. "You know, the little rectangle with your face on it that you keep in your purse?" the blonde cop explains patiently. "Oh, that!" the blonde driver exclaims. She digs around in her purse and finally pulls out a small rectangular mirror, which she hands to the blonde cop. The blonde cop looks at the mirror and exclaims, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. You're free to go. I didn't realize you were a cop." A little boy was attending his first wedding. After the service, his cousin asked him, "How many women can a man marry?" 16, the boy responded. His cousin was amazed that he had an answer so quickly. "How do you know that?" "Easy," the little boy said. "All you have to do is add it up like the bishop said. 4 better, 4 worse, 4 richer, 4 poorer." A man went to the dentist to schedule getting a tooth pulled. "I don't have a lot of money," he confessed. "Is there any way we could make the procedure cheaper?" "I suppose for a small discount," thought the dentist, "we could reuse some of our disposable tools. It may slightly increase your risk of infection, but theoretically, you should be fine." "That sounds good, but is there anything you could do to bring the price down even more?" the man asked. The dentist thinks a moment. "I'm currently training a new hygienist. He is very green and very impatient, but if we let him practice on you, that will save me from ruining another set of training teeth." "Great, but is there anything else you could possibly do for me?" The dentist shakes his head. "No, the only thing left would be to leave out the painkillers. But without those, the procedure will be extremely painful, absolutely unbearable even." "Please, sir," the man pleaded. "I'm destitute. I'll do whatever it takes to make this as cheap as possible." The dentist relents. "Very well. I have an opening tomorrow morning at 9:30 if you're ready. Shall I have a name for the appointment?" "My wife's name is Sharon." The man responds, "I'll be dropping her off around 9. A little boy wanted a bicycle for Christmas. His mother said she didn't have enough money to buy him a new bike, but suggested that if he wrote to Jesus promising to be a good boy in the future, then maybe Jesus might be willing to get him one. So the boy started writing out a letter. "Dear Jesus, I promise to be good for 1 year." He crossed it out and wrote, "Dear Jesus, I promise to be good for 1 month." Still, he wasn't happy, so he crossed it out and wrote, "Dear Jesus, I promise to be good for 1 week." His head spun, he tore up the paper, and he went for a walk. As he passed the local church, he noticed a nativity scene. When nobody was looking, he grabbed the figure of Mary, hid it under his coat, and ran home. There he composed a new letter. "Dear Jesus, if you ever want to see your mother again." Doctor to a female patient. "You look so weak and exhausted. Are you taking 3 meals a day like I said?" Patient. "Oh my God, your nurse wrote 3 meals a day." A prisoner escaped, and the first place he went was his home. His wife, seeing him, says, "The news said you escaped at 3 p.m. and now it's 7 p.m. Where were you?" The prisoner handed himself back to the authorities. A little boy named Tommy went to church with his grandma every Sunday. One day, Grandma told him it was time to make his first confession. She explained, "You go into that little booth, tell the priest your sins, and he'll forgive you." Tommy was nervous but agreed. He walked into the confessional, sat down, and the priest slid open the little window. "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned," Tommy whispered. The priest smiled kindly. "Go ahead, my son. What are your sins?" Tommy took a deep breath. "Well, I stole a pencil from school, I said a bad word, and I lied to my mom." The priest nodded. "That's not too bad. Anything else?" Tommy thought hard. Oh yeah. I threw my sister's Barbie out the window and told her she ran away." The priest chuckled. "Anything else?" Tommy scratched his head. "Oh, And last night I put toothpaste on Grandpa's dentures while he was sleeping. The priest tried not to laugh. All right, my son. Say 3 Hail Marys and try to be a better boy. Tommy nodded, feeling proud. When he walked out of the booth, Grandma smiled and asked, "How did it go?" Tommy grinned widely. "Piece of cake, Grandma. But I don't think that guy behind the screen knows half the stuff I've done." An old woman accidentally drops her fake teeth at the park while walking her dog. She can't find the teeth anywhere in the tall grass. A man spots her bending over and asks what she lost. "I dropped my false teeth somewhere around here." "Oh," the man says, "that's no big deal. Here, try this pair on." He hands her a set of teeth that are too big for her mouth. He hands her a second set of teeth that are too small. Finally, the third set fits just right. "Thank you so much," the old woman says. "Do you have a business card?" "I've been looking for a good dentist for some time." "Oh, I'm not a dentist," the man replies. "I'm an undertaker." Walking past the cemetery, Leonard said, "Look, Edna, buy one, get one free plots." Edna frowned. "You think I want to spend eternity next to you?" Leonard smirked. "It's cheaper than a condo." Edna replied, "I'd rather haunt the neighbors than hear your snoring for all eternity." Leonard sighed. 50 years of marriage and not even the grave brings peace. A woman was stepping out of the shower when the doorbell rang. Her husband was getting ready to shower, so she quickly wrapped herself in a towel and answered the door. It was Bob, the neighbor. Without skipping a beat, Bob said, "I'll give you $800 to drop the towel." After a moment of thought, the woman decided $800 was worth it. She dropped the towel, collected the cash, and closed the door. When she returned upstairs, her husband asked, "Who was at the door?" "It was Bob," she replied. "Oh, great. Did he say anything about the $800 he owes me?" A Sunday school teacher was worried his preschool class might be a little confused about Jesus because of all the focus on his birth at Christmas. He wanted to be sure they understood Jesus grew up and that Christmas wasn't the whole story. So he asked the class, "Where is Jesus today?" Stephen raised his hand and said, "He's in heaven." Mary answered, "He's in my heart." Then little Johnny, waving his hand wildly, blurted out, I know. He's in our bathroom." The room went silent. The teacher stood there completely stunned, then finally asked little Johnny how he knew that. Little Johnny replied, "Well, every morning my dad bangs on the bathroom door and yells, 'Jesus Christ, are you still in there?'" A cowboy, fresh from Texas, strolls into a bar in Montana and orders 3 mugs of Bud. He heads to a corner and takes a sip from each mug, one after the other, in turn. Once he's done, he returns to the bar and orders 3 more. Curious, the bartender approaches him and says, "You know, beer goes flat pretty quick after it's poured. It might taste better if you just ordered one at a time." The cowboy smiles and explains, "Well, here's the thing. I've got 2 brothers, one in Arizona, the other in Colorado. When we all moved away from Texas, we promised that whenever we drank, we'd each have one for the others, just like we did back home. So I'm drinking for my brothers and myself." The bartender nods, impressed by the sentiment, and leaves it at that. The cowboy becomes a regular, always ordering 3 beers and sipping them in rotation. One day, though, he walks in and only orders 2 mugs. The regulars, noticing the change, go quiet. When the cowboy returns to the bar for his second round, the bartender cautiously leans in and says, "I'm sorry for your loss. I just wanted to offer my condolences." The cowboy looks confused for a second, then bursts out laughing. "Oh no, no one's passed away," he chuckles. "It's just that my wife and I joined the Baptist church, so I had to quit drinking. But my brothers are still going strong." A modern-day old cowboy has spent many days crossing the desert without water. He's crawling through the sand, certain that he has breathed his last, when he suddenly sees an object sticking out of the sand several yards ahead of him. He crawls towards the object, pulls it out of the sand, and discovers what looks like an old briefcase. He opens it, and out pops a genie. But this is no ordinary genie. She wears an Australian taxation office badge and a dull gray dress. There is a calculator in her pocketbook. She has a pencil tucked behind one ear. "Well, old cowboy," said the genie, "you know how I work. You have 3 wishes." "I'm not falling for this," says the old man. "I'm not going to trust an ATO auditor genie." "What do you have to lose? You have no transportation, and it looks like you are a goner anyway." The old man thinks about this for a minute and decides the genie is right. Shazam. "Okay. I wish I were in a lush oasis with lots of food and drink." Shazam! The old cowboy is in the most beautiful oasis he has ever seen, surrounded by jugs of wine and platters of delicacies. "Okay, old boy, what's your second wish?" "My second wish is for me to be rich beyond my wildest dreams." Shazam! The old man is surrounded by treasure chests filled with rare gold coins and precious gems. "Okay, cowpuncher, you just have one wish. Better make it a good one." After a few minutes of thinking, the man says, "I wish that no matter where I go, beautiful women will want and need me." Shazam! He is turned into a tampon. Moral of the story: if the government offers you anything, there's going to be a string attached. A young boy enters the barber shop and the barber whispers to his customer, "This is the dumbest kid in the world. Watch while I prove it to you." The barber puts a dollar bill in one hand and 2 quarters in the other, then calls the boy over and asks, "Which do you want, son?" The boy takes the quarters and leaves. "What did I tell you?" said the barber. Later, when the customer leaves, he sees the same young boy coming out of the ice cream store. "Hey, son, may I ask you a question? Why did you take the quarters instead of the dollar bill?" The boy licked his cone and replied, "Because the day I take the dollar, the game's over." A man and a little boy entered a barber shop together. After the man received the full treatment, shave, shampoo, manicure, haircut, etc., he placed the boy in the chair. "I'm going to buy a green tie to wear for the parade," he said. "I'll be back in a few minutes." When the boy's haircut was completed and the man still hadn't returned, the barber said, "Looks like your daddy's forgotten all about you." "That wasn't my daddy," said the boy. "He just walked up, took me by the hand and said, 'Come on, son, we're going to get a free haircut.'" A blonde was rollerblading with her headphones on. She stopped at a hair salon and asked for a haircut. She instructed that the hairstylist could not take off her headphones. The stylist replied, refusing to cut her hair, so she left. She went to a different hair salon and said the same thing. This time, the stylist agreed to cut her hair. After a while, the blonde fell asleep in the chair. To wake her, the stylist took off the headphones. The blonde immediately fell on the floor, flopped, and died. Confused at what happened, the stylist put on the headphones. They were saying, "Breathe in, breathe out." Marley stopped at the town barber shop for a haircut. After 35 minutes of snipping and cutting, the barber held a mirror behind Marley's head. "How do you like it?" asked the barber. "Real fine," said the redneck. "But how about making it a little longer in the back?" I was walking down the street with my new boyfriend, enjoying the day, when suddenly we ran into my ex. He smirked, walked right up to my boyfriend and said smugly, "Hey, asshole, let me tell you something. This chick right here, she's worn out goods. I've used her before." Without missing a beat, I grabbed my boyfriend's arm, smiled sweetly, and said, "Don't worry, babe. Just the front 2 inches, everything else is brand new." This pastor decided to skip church one Sunday morning and go play golf. He told his assistant that he wasn't feeling well. He drove to a golf course in another city so nobody would know him. He teed off on the first hole. A huge gust of wind caught his ball, carried as an extra 100 yards, and dropped it right in the hole for a 450-yard hole-in-one. An angel looked at God and said, "What'd you do that for?" God smiled and said, "Who's he going to tell?" Three couples are meeting with their pastor to discuss joining the leadership team. The pastor told them to be part of the ministry team. They must learn sacrifice, to sacrifice their earthly desires. He asks that if they truly feel led to be in the ministry, they must forgo sexual intimacy for 1 month. They shared glances all around and agreed, and closed the meeting in prayer. The month passes, and here they all were again in the pastor's office. The pastor addresses the first couple, both in their mid-50s. "How did your month go?" They clasp each other's hand and smile. "No problem, really. We haven't had regular intercourse for quite some time." "Welcome to the leadership team," the pastor replied. Then he turned to the next couple, both in their 30s. They gave a slight smile. The first 2 weeks went okay. The third week was a little rougher. By the fourth week, we were sleeping in separate rooms and taking cold showers, but we succeeded. "Desires of the flesh can be strong, but you remained stronger to your calling. Welcome to our leadership team," turning to the last couple, newlyweds in their 20s. "Now, how was your month?" They hung their heads in shame. "We didn't even make it 1 week. The second day I saw her bending over to pick up some fruit, and I couldn't help myself, and we just went at it." "Well, I'm sorry," the pastor sadly responded. "But we can't allow you onto our leadership team." The young couple slowly nodded their understanding, and the wife meekly replied, "We understand. They won't let us back into Walmart either." Johnny rushes home from school. He invades the fridge and is scooping out some cherry vanilla ice cream when his mother enters the kitchen. She says, "Put that away, Johnny. You can't have ice cream now. It's too close to supper time. Go outside and play." Johnny whimpers and says, "There's no one to play with." Trying to placate him, she says, "Okay, I'll play with you. What do you want to play?" "I want to play Mummy and Daddy," Johnny whines in reply. Trying not to register surprise and to further appease him, she says, "Fine, I'll play. What do I do?" Johnny says, "You go up to the bedroom and lie down as if you're taking a nap." Figuring that she can easily control the situation, Mom goes upstairs. Johnny, acting a bit cocky, swaggers down the hall and opens the utility closet. He puts on his father's old fishing hat. As he starts up the stairs, he notices a cigarette butt in the ashtray on the end table. He picks it up and slips it in the corner of his mouth. At the top of the stairs, he moves to the bedroom doorway. His mother raises her head and asks, "What do I do now?" In a gruff manner, Johnny says, "Get your butt downstairs and get that kid some ice cream." Two old Jewish men, Sid and Al, are sitting in a Mexican restaurant in Los Angeles one day. Sid asks Al, "Do you know of any people of our faith born and raised in Mexico?" Al replies, "I don't know, let's ask our waiter." When the waiter arrives, Al asks, "Are there any Mexican Jews?" The waiter says, "I don't know, senor. I ask the cooks." He returns from the kitchen a few minutes later and says, "No, senor, the cooks say no Mexican Jews." Al isn't satisfied and asks, "Are you absolutely sure?" The waiter, realizing he is dealing with gringos, replies, "I check once again, senor." While the waiter is away, Sid says, "I find it hard to believe that there are no Jews in Mexico. Our people are scattered everywhere." The waiter returns and says, "Senor, the head cook say there is no Mexican Jews." Al asks, "Are you certain? I just can't believe there are no Mexican Jews." The exasperated waiter says, "Senor, I ask everyone. All we have is orange Jews, grapefruit Jews, prune Jews, apple Jews, and tomato Jews." An 85-year-old woman named Doris went to the DMV to renew her driver's license. The clerk looked at her paperwork and said, "Ma'am, I see here that you haven't had a single traffic violation in 65 years. That's incredible. Doris beamed. That's right, young man. I've been driving since I was 20, and not once have I been pulled over, had an accident, or even gotten a parking ticket. The clerk was impressed. Well, that's quite an achievement. But given your age, I have to ask, are you sure you still feel comfortable driving? Doris scoffed. Of course. I drive every day. I take my friends to bingo, I go to the grocery store, and I even drove myself here. I may be 85, but I have the reflexes of a cat and the vision of an eagle. The clerk nodded and handed her a vision test. All right, let's just check your eyesight. Doris put on her thick glasses and peered into the vision machine. Oh yes, I see it. There's a big E at the top, then an F and a P. The clerk smiled. Great. Now, can you read the second row? Doris squinted. I see a Q. Or maybe an O. No, wait. It's a bicycle. The clerk frowned. Ma'am, there are only letters on the chart. Doris waved a hand. Oh, I know. But at my age, I've learned to predict traffic signs. If there's an O and a P together, that usually means stop. And if there's a Q, it means I should slow down because I'm probably about to miss my turn. The clerk hesitated but decided to continue. All right, let's move on to reaction time. I'm going to tap the desk, and when I do, I want you to clap your hands as fast as possible. Doris nodded eagerly. The clerk tapped the desk. Doris sat still. The clerk tapped it again. Still nothing. Finally, after a full 30 seconds, Doris clapped her hands together. The clerk raised an eyebrow. Was there a delay? Doris chuckled. No, dear. I was just finishing my sip of tea first. You should never rush a good Earl Grey. The clerk sighed. Ma'am, I'm really not sure. Just then, another DMV worker burst into the room. Oh, thank goodness you're here, Mrs. Doris. Your car is blocking 4 spaces. There's a shopping cart wedged under your bumper, and your left blinker has been on for 20 minutes. Doris gasped. Oh my, that must have been someone else's car. The worker shook his head. Ma'am, it's a bright pink Cadillac with a Bingo Queen bumper sticker and a bobblehead of Betty White on the dashboard. Doris thought for a moment. All right, maybe that was me. But in my defense, parking lots are confusing at my age. I remember when they were just dirt and horse hitching posts. The clerk took a deep breath. Ma'am, I think it might be time to consider giving up driving. Doris leaned in with a smirk. Young man, I will stop driving the day I can't remember where I put my keys. The worker shook his head. Ma'am, your keys are in your hand. Doris laughed. Well, then I guess I'm still good to go. And with that, she shuffled out the door, got in her car, and promptly drove off with her left blinker still flashing.